Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. Over the next half an hour, we'll be looking beyond the business headlines by giving you in-depth perspective on the stories that are affecting all of us. Coming up on today's show, the latest UK GDP figures are in, and it appears as if the country is on course for its worst recession in 300 years. I'll be speaking with Lukman Otanuga, a senior research analyst from Forex Time, about reaction on the currency market. And £1.3 billion was invested in Africa last year. I'll be speaking with Bolaji Shofoluwe from the Africa-focused business consultancy firm Enterprise Trade and Knowledge about investment trends in a post-COVID market. Then later, I'll be speaking with Ronnie Savage, the founder and managing director of the environmental and engineering firm Jomas Associates, about the life-changing work she is undertaking with the Start Her Enterprise movement. Before those discussions, here's our business correspondent Simon Pusey with a breakdown of the biggest business stories trending in Britain this week. Simon, we're getting used to the government making some pretty extraordinary U-turns, but it seems as if this U-turn on Huawei could have massive ramifications.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about Huawei in the last few years, and pretty much no one had heard of them sort of maybe 10 years ago, but they've been around since 1988, and they're a huge company. They're the third biggest smartphone company in the world behind Apple and Samsung. But in China, they're by far the biggest, and by far I mean they've got 40% share in China, when Samsung used to be the leading phone supplier there. And it's partly because they're so big that there's been a couple of rumors about how they've become so big, and maybe the government are involved, maybe the government are helping them, or maybe even at some sections it's run by the government. So that's led US authorities in America and Washington to put them on a list of national security threats, and they've imposed sanctions on the company. And it seems like that seems to have played sort of part of a role in what you describe as the U-turn, because for a long time it looked like Huawei was our route to 5G, and we were going to use Huawei, and that was going to get the UK 5G pretty quickly. Let's take a little listen as to what Oliver Dowden, the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, had to say earlier this week.
The government agrees with the National Cybersecurity Centre's advice. The best way to secure our networks is for operators to stop using new affected Huawei equipment to build the UK's future 5G networks. So to be clear, from the end of this year, telecoms operators must not buy any 5G equipment from Huawei. And once the Telecom Security Bill is passed, it will be illegal for them to do so. Mr. Speaker, I have previously set out our plans to safely manage the presence of high-risk vendors in our 5G network. And of course, our ambition right from the very beginning was that no one should need to use a high-risk vendor for 5G at all. But I know that honourable members have sought a commitment from the government to remove Huawei equipment from our 5G network altogether. This is why we have concluded that it is necessary and indeed prudent to commit to a timetable for the removal of Huawei equipment from our 5G network by 2027. Let me be clear. This requirement will be set out in law by the Telecom Security Bill. By the time of the next election, we will have implemented in law an irreversible path for the complete removal of Huawei equipment from our 5G networks.
So to be clear, this action doesn't mean that Huawei can't sell phones here and consumers can't buy phones. You can still go out and buy a Huawei phone if you want to. It just means that companies here will not be able to use them to provide their network. So Orange or EE or whichever your sort of smartphone provider is won't be able to use their technology for 5G. The US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has welcomed the news, saying that the UK joins a growing list of countries from around the world that are standing up for their national security. And a lot of this does surround sort of fears over national security and to how much maybe data is going to the Chinese government from Huawei. Huawei obviously have said this is a bad move, saying that this is bad news for anyone in the UK with a mobile phone, and threatened to move Britain into the digital slow lane. China's ambassador also saying the UK decision was disappointing and wrong. But as you say, it does look like a big decision from the UK to move away from Huawei, and a lot of people may be pointing to America and the lobbying they've done to get this decision across the line from the UK.
Absolutely. I'm sure we'll be discussing this throughout the year, Simon. Thank you so much. Here's some other business news from across the globe. The British economy failed to regain much momentum in May, with official figures showing a 1.8% improvement in UK output compared to the previous month. The figure is worse than the 5% growth economists had expected. Following the data release, the pound slipped to a 2-week low against the euro, and 2-year British government bond yields fell to their lowest level on record after the data. I'm now being joined by Lukman Otanuga, a senior research analyst at FXTM. Lukman Otanuga, thank you so much for joining me on Channel's Business Global. Small growth better than no growth, especially if you consider that we had a dip in April of 20.4% of GDP. What did the markets think of the 1.8% we saw earlier this week?
Thank you for having me here today. Yeah, there was actually no love for the British pound, despite that tepid recovery of 1.8% in May. And this has simply actually poured cold water over the UK economy, experiencing that V-shaped recovery everybody's been talking about. We've seen the pound has depreciated against the dollar and most G10 currencies year to date, and is likely to extend losses thanks to gloomy economic data and more uncertainty around Brexit. But on the bright side, in light of this, I think there's optimism that GDP growth in June and July may rebound thanks to the reopening of non-essential shops, services and leisure. But it doesn't really change the fact that the coronavirus has been quite costly to the UK economy, with GDP between March and April dropping a whopping 25%.
25%, it's massive, isn't it? And I suppose the conversation amongst economists is whether or not COVID will actually have a permanent scarring to the economy. Let's talk about sterling and Bank of America's recent comments on sterling. They said that it should no longer be treated like a G5 economy, that it's behaving like an emergent currency. Do you think that was too harsh?
That was quite harsh, but looking at the British pound's valuation over the past 4 years, the explosive amount of volatility, uncertainty, movement due to the chronic uncertainty of Brexit, monetary policy speculation, political instability, speculations around the Bank of England possibly adopting negative interest rates, all of this has really put the British pound on a wild roller coaster ride, quite similar to emerging market currencies out there. So there is some volatility in that statement. And, we expect the British pound to remain quite prone to explosive movements or wild swings up and down, given how it's become quite sensitive to how people feel about the UK economy. If we have a case where the UK contracts this year or Brexit just goes downhill, the decline that we'll see in the British pound may mirror what we may see in the emerging market space.
Lukman Otanuga, Senior Research Analyst at Forex Time Limited. Thank you so much for that thorough analysis. Africa remains one of the best destinations for VC investors and businesses, owing to its large population and emerging economy. Last year alone, $1.34 billion was invested on the continent, a significant increase from the £500 million recorded in 2018. With security and infrastructure still remaining a huge barrier for FDI, how has the additional fallout from the COVID pandemic changed the investment market? Let's ask Bolaji Shofoluwe, founder and managing director of the Africa-focused business consultancy firm Enterprise Trade and Knowledge. £1.3 billion was invested into the continent last year. What's still the pull for people in the West?
Well, at ETK, we call this the Big Three. Thank you so much for inviting me. The Big Three is youth, opportunity, and resources. So youth being that obviously the fact that 60% of Africa's population is under the age of 30, it means that this is going to generate some kind of demographic dividend. Given the right investment opportunities, the working age population, obviously, with the disposable income, will spur greater consumption, production, and investment. So it just feels like the right sort of place to invest because of that reason. Then obviously, like I said about opportunity, there's an abundance of opportunities in Africa, ranging from infrastructure, connecting cities, fintech, creative industry, that's fashion, film, and the arts, agriculture. It's a bundle of opportunities. And of course, resources. As you probably know, 30% of the world's minerals and mineral deposits are in Africa. So that goes without saying that there are extremely huge opportunities in that area as well.
There are amazing opportunities, and of course your clients are tapping into all of them. I've got to ask about some of the concerns, because there are concerns whether we like it or not. You mentioned infrastructure, and for some people infrastructure is an issue in Africa, as well as security, especially in Nigeria. There are some places north of Abuja that some Western CEOs just don't want to travel to. What are some of the other concerns that the ETK Group have found are an issue for investors, and how do you think these African nations can tackle them?
Well, I think one of the issues that investors are facing is currency. Quite a number of African currencies have been quite volatile, particularly in the wake of COVID-19. Looking at Nigeria, for instance, they've literally just devalued the currency. I think that was late last week. And the CBN obviously felt the need to do this because they had to sit down and have a reality check, I think, concerning the prospects for Nigeria, particularly since the country is heavily dependent on commodities trade. So currency is one of the big issues. And obviously, there's the ease of doing business index. And I know a lot of people have different opinions about how these calculations and these assumptions are made around ease of doing business. However, some of these issues are stark and pervading, and sometimes clients just can't get past these big issues that they face in some of these countries.
No, you're right there. I've got to ask you about the UK Africa Investment Summit. You were there
Yes.
alongside many heads of state. I was there too. Nigeria was really, treated in an excellent way as the beacon of the continent. What was ETK Group's involvement in the summit, and how has your vision changed due to COVID?
Well, I think that week I did I did a few interviews during that week, and one of the things that I kept saying was, we've been saying this for the last 10 years, that there are opportunities in Africa and they need to be taken seriously. But I was quite excited to see the commitment that the Boris Johnson government showed by putting on this kind of event. For me, at the event, before the event, and for the years to come, my opinions on the opportunities in Africa haven't changed at all. I was heavily involved in the agribusiness and the infrastructure sessions that were held at that event. And the good news stories just kept on coming. But obviously, with good news stories, there were a lot of challenges that people were sharing. And I think that sort of following that conference, I mean, you probably know that £2 billion worth of deals were struck during that conference. So people are quite optimistic following that event, especially British business.
Absolutely. We talk a lot about money coming into Africa. What about money coming out of Africa? Are there any exciting clients you're working with, or are there any sectors that are doing very well that Africa are able to export to the global north?
Well, this is the part of my job I love the most. I'm always delighted to be working with these kind of clients. And ETK has quite a few clients across the continent that are quite keen on exploring opportunities outside of Africa. I think one of the biggest issues is, we work with two different kinds of brands. We work with African brands that contract manufacture, so their manufacturing operations are not on the continent. And then we deal with African brands that actually manufacture locally. Now, the latter are the more difficult clients to work with, only because there are quite a number of restrictions, and there is obviously a product bias on products that are coming out of Africa. And so what we help them with is sort of their regulation, sort of the licenses that they need. But obviously they have challenges such as having the marketing budget. Because as you can imagine, for instance, if I'm bringing a cosmetics brand into the UK, they don't have the budgets of some of the larger cosmetics brands here to push into the market. So these are some of the issues. However, some of the export promotion councils are doing an extremely good job. Territories like the EU have put in place certain advantages for companies that are importing from OECD countries to aid development. So these are some of the things that are in place, but there's not a lot of knowledge about them out there.
There isn't a lot of knowledge, but at least we've got you, Bolaji, flying the flag, not just taking money into Africa, but actually bringing money out. That's also vastly important, isn't it? But Bolaji Shofoluwe, Managing Director of the ETK Group, thank you so much for joining me on Channel's Business Global. In a moment, I'll be speaking with Ronnie Savage from Jomas Associates. But before then, here's some company news for you. British airline Virgin Atlantic has finalised a rescue deal valued at £1.2 billion, removing the medium-term chance of administration because of the coronavirus crisis. The deal, which will involve a £200 million backing from Richard Branson's Virgin Group and hedge fund Davidson Kempner, was confirmed late on Tuesday. Virgin Atlantic said the refinancing covered the next 5 years and paved the way for it to rebuild its balance sheet and return to profitability in 2022. Retail sales for the first half of this year for online grocer Ocado jumped 27% to £1 billion as Brits did their supermarket shopping from home. The group reported a loss before tax of £40.6 million in the 6 months to the end of May, citing an increase in investment to handle increased demand because of the coronavirus pandemic. This was down from a loss of £147.4 million in the same period last year, though that included £99 million in exceptional costs after a major fire broke out at its warehouse in Andover. Now over to our next discussion. Next week, Thursday, the 23rd of July, will see the launch of a new initiative which aims to unlock the enormous potential and talent in young women in West Africa and beyond. Start Her Enterprise, or SHE as it's known, invests in these young women's futures by providing training, business skills and opportunities to deliver long-term impact for everyone involved. One of the ladies on the esteemed panel next week is Ronnie Savage, a successful businesswoman who's the founder and managing director of the environmental and engineering firm Jomas Associates, and she joins me now. Ronnie Savage, it's such a pleasure having you on Channel's Business Global. You may not be too familiar to the Nigerian audience, but certainly you are an inspiration, I would say, to a lot of young Black British women here in the UK. So thank you so much for taking your time out to speak to me. It is an obvious question where I will start, but what drew you to the SHE, or Start Her Enterprise initiative?
Everything it stands for. Thank you for having me, Juliana. It's a pleasure to be here. Everything it stands for really is aligned to my own personal mission as a person. So what Start Our Enterprise does is it looks at helping and training young women or women from disadvantaged backgrounds and just trying to help them become entrepreneurs. That's I thoroughly enjoy doing that in my own day-to-day life, but helping others and helping sort of women start their own businesses. So I think it's great. It's just so aligned with my own personal mission, and that's why when I was invited to join and be part of it, it was a no-brainer for me.
Ronnie, next Thursday we should have been all together, but due to lockdown, even though it's been lifted, it is going to be a remote discussion, and there are some esteemed women on that panel. What do you think is unique about your story, and how do you think some of these women in West Africa can relate to you?
Right. I mean, I don't like to compare. We've got 4 incredible ambassadors who I'm inspired by. We're all running amazing businesses. But I think personally, in terms of my own personal story, I run an engineering company that I founded myself just under 11 years ago, serving the construction industry. I work in an industry where only 12% of the entire workforce is female, and a very, very tiny percentage are women who run their own businesses. And I've not come across another woman of colour, another Black woman who runs an engineering company the size of mine in the country. So I think that puts me in a position of understanding the difficulties of being different, but also allows me to demonstrate the importance of believing in yourself and just going through with your beliefs and your goals and going forward. So I think I've got a story to tell in that I am different in terms of my space in the construction industry, but actually I demonstrate that with hard work and resilience that anything is possible. So we shouldn't be held back by our differences.
Absolutely. You're talking about, a successful career here and, climbing the ladder, even in Nigeria. I think you would be one of the very few women of such a successful career in engineering. You did touch upon being a female and your race. When you look back, have you ever felt as if perhaps that may have closed some doors on you? Of course, we know that civil unrest is being caused across the world, including in Nigeria, because of injustices that people in the West are facing, people of colour. Do you think that has had a hindrance on your career at all?
I've had to give this a lot of thought in the last few months with everything else that's going on around us globally. Personally, my focus is very much on what I'm able to achieve, and I think that's why doors have been opened for me. I focus very much on the positives rather than negatives. And if I don't have an opportunity, I don't dwell on it. I move on. So I've not sort of given the time to think about whether I didn't have that opportunity or that opportunity wasn't granted to me because I'm female or because I'm a black woman, and maybe that's why I wasn't given that opportunity. I move on very quickly into focusing on the positive. I mean, that said, I've walked into rooms, I've walked into construction sites where people have literally stopped and just stared at me while I walked through sites, or being questioned about whether I was there to clean or to make coffee. But ultimately, like I say, I focus very much on the positives, and I'm very I'm really excited by the opportunity I have to be different. I'm also a policy chair for construction for the Federation of Small Businesses. So I essentially represent small businesses across the country with regards to sort of policy discussions. So I've got an incredible opportunity here, and it's not being female or being black hasn't held me back, because my focus has been very much on what I'm able to achieve, and rather than potentially what the opportunities I may not have had because of my race or gender. But I would be lying if I said that those issues aren't there. They are. I've just dealt with it by focusing very much on the positives.
Absolutely, and I think that many of our viewers, including myself, can agree with you on that. You mentor a lot of women, Ronnie. Hopefully you'll be signing me up too. What do you think are some of the similarities, or some of the similarities it could be, between some of the young mentees you have here and some of the women in West Africa that will benefit from the She Enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of women, and what I find that's quite prevalent with women I work with is a lack of belief. So I spoke to some young students just last week about being engineers, and some of the feedback I had from them was about just not believing in themselves, not being confident enough to think that they have an opportunity. So I think that that's probably a lot relevant to what goes on in West Africa, where women are thinking that we may not have this opportunity given to us because we're female, where in the UK we're dealing with the fact that you're female or you're also a person of colour. So there are much related issues that, like I said before, that I manage to deal with by focusing on the positive, but also in the opportunities that I have to speak at the top of the table is to make these issues known, so that companies are changing their culture, and they're sort of changing how they're adapting and understanding the issues that are faced by women and the issues that are faced by people of colour, so that they can make them not only sort of employ them, but also make their work environment a lot more inclusive. I mean, like I say, I work in construction. I serve land developers, undertaking engineering and environmental surveys. And, I also employ women. I've employed female graduates within the company and inspire them to build their careers. And I, as a business, have to protect them and make sure that the industry is accepting of them. So I think that all companies need to do that.
Absolutely. Hopefully that will be the way forward. We're running out of time, Ronnie. I can't let you go without asking your opinions on how the business world is likely to change post-COVID. I think they're calling it PC, aren't they? Yeah. Especially for young entrepreneurs, especially because a lot of women of colour, they really enjoyed booming online sales, social media selling, Instagram selling. It's a little different, isn't it? What kind of advice would you give for people in terms of how they should be projecting their business aspirations?
Right, it's research. That's the first thing. That's my biggest advice, is understand your business, understand your customers, get on the phone. And when this hit in March, the first thing we did was pick up the phone and speak to our clients to understand their needs and how we can adapt to suit their needs. So ultimately, you run a business because you've got a passion, but also because there's somebody out there who's going to buy your services and pay for your services. So you need to understand the business and the structure that the business needs, but you also need to understand your customers and what they need and how you can adapt to make sure that you can continue to provide that service. And that's what's kept us going through this process.
Absolutely. I've got to say, Ronnie Savage, it's been such a pleasure for having you on the show. Co-founder, founder and managing director of Jomas Associates. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Sadly, that's all we have time for today, but do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channel's Business Global. Goodbye.